Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. For everybody, I'd just like to say Happy Yorkshire Day. God's county is Yorkshire. And when you're born and bred in Yorkshire, it's a fantastic place to live. My special guest today is Paul Ascroft. Paul spent over 50 years involved in the UFO research and investigation. He has had his own UFO sighting and is a member of the British UFO Research Association. He has proved very popular on podcasts and podcast panels, sharing his views, which can be found on many YouTube and video channels. Can we please welcome Paul to the show? Hello there.
Hello, Bob, and thank you very much for having me on Out of Nowhere Radio.
I love it. I love it. When we talk about UFO, how did it all start for you then?
Well, as people that know me, I was many years ago. It was I was 11 years old back in 1968, and I was with my father and my younger brother, and two UFOs came out of a bank of cloud and then just stopped dead.
You're crackling a little bit. I don't know why.
Oh, go on. Shall I carry on?
Yeah, carry on. Just move one of your mic a little bit or whatever.
Okay, well, I'll try and speak up a little, Bob. But
all right.
Yeah, what happened was two UFOs came out of a bank of cloud in front of us as the three of us were actually looking at the sky, and then they just stopped dead. I mean, they were moving very quickly as they came out of this cloud. Stopped dead. There was no sound, no apparent rotation, just two really brilliant pearly white balls of light. And as they stopped dead, I got I can only tell you what I experienced, but I got a masculine, friendly voice in my head that said, "Oops, we hadn't meant to have been seen." And I heard that quite clearly with the intent behind it in my head. And then literally after a few seconds, they were moving very quickly again, no acceleration, and they stayed the same relative position to each other and then moved away from us fast. No acceleration, they were just moving quickly. And as they moved, they were this very small sort of teardrop shape, like they were covered in some sort of an atmosphere that was sloughing off the back as they moved away. Absolute silence, nothing. And the three of us were gobsmacked, as you say, just looking at the sky. Nobody said anything. And my father was the first to speak, who'd done his national service in the RAF. And he just said, "Well, there's nothing we've got that can do that." And that set it. It was like a switch in my brain, like, why, they've been here all this time. I sort of knew about it. I mean, I'd never had anything to do with UFOs or anything like that before, but it was like I knew about it. It was like, it was obvious because it was so odd and so bizarre. It was obvious that it was something alien. It wasn't something terrestrial. And it was that was the hook that got me. How can something look like that and move like that? And even, for want of a better, use physics like that. That isn't on the news, it isn't in the papers. Why don't I know about it? And that's what got me into UFOs.
So that after that sighting, did your father get more into it then and start looking for books and things like that?
Yeah, that was the other thing. I mean, we're going back to 1968, so your local library, even your local bookstores, there were very few books on UFOs. People like Major Donald Kehoe, I suppose, Leonard Stringfield, Jacques Vallée was just starting then. Jenny Randall's was another one that was coming onto the scene then. So they were very few books, and they'd never had them in stock. So you had to go into your local city, if you like, to the bigger bookstores where they would order the books for you. But there was nothing, there was no internet, obviously. So you had to put in the groundwork to go and get these books in and do some interest. But as you asked about my father, he was immediately interested. And the book he got was Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods.
Oh, yeah.
And that came out. So he gave me that when he'd read it, and I read that as well. So that was another thing that added, if you like, another piece to the pie, another slice, or another piece of the jigsaw to it.
Did it frighten you, that sighting then?
Sorry, Bob, say that again, please.
Did it frighten you, that
Oh.
sighting you had?
No, not at all. And that, as I said, it was so odd and so bizarre, and we didn't have time because it was very unexpected. My father, what can I say? I mean, at the end of the day, he was just a local bus driver driving the transport around the between the local cities through our village. But he was an intelligent guy, and he had this whatever interest he had. Like he'd get a microscope, he'd have a telescope, but he always tried to involve the children. I was the eldest one of four. So when he'd got this telescope, he had binoculars as well, and he'd go out and learn the basic constellations like the Plough and where the North Star was, and he used to teach us as children so that we always knew which way we were facing. We knew which way north was, as long as you could see some of the constellations. So we had that sort of interest. And we were just looking at the sky when these two UFOs appeared, and it was a life-changing moment for me. My brother, he was interested, but not really. He was 9 years old, but it didn't affect him the same as it did myself. And it was the same with my father. He wanted to read and get more books, but the other two, and I asked them since, my father's been dead many years. But I even asked my brother only recently, and he never felt anything or heard anything. It was only myself that heard. So, but I think that, go on, yeah. But I think that's what sort of, because it was so, bizarre, it was so odd, and that's what got, it was like, I need to know more, I need to know why. But again, you could also argue, was that the catalyst that pushed me to do that? Was that meant to be, sort of thing?
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's talk about that new book, UFOs, The Real Story. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And how did you become to write it? What got you involved more into it?
Yeah, well, I wanted to write it for years, and I think what had happened was over time, like many ufologists and people that are just genuinely interested, you tend to read different types of books, but the authors, I'm generalizing here, will write about a specific case or a specific location like Roswell or the Bermuda Triangle or all these different things. And they don't look at things like, as Paul is now, Mr. Slinclad himself, looking at cryptids, looking at UFOs, and looking at these, I'm going to say portals for want of a better word. And there are many, many of these all over the world, where places like Skinwalker Ranch, the Bermuda Triangle, all these other places, they call it the Alaska Triangle, the Scottish, the Falkirk Triangle. And I think a lot of these places are natural electromagnetic disturbances within our ordinary matter. And that is why we get all these. And I think that is part of the area of Bempton where Paul goes. And that's another area. And that's why he's getting all these cryptid sightings, UFO sightings. And I dare say there'll be a lot of other things as well on the periphery because it's going through different dimensions at that point.
Yeah, about your book, what do you actually go into? Right. Because there'll be lots of people out there thinking it's all right writing a book about UFOs, but we don't know a lot about why are they here? Are they on our side?
Yeah, well, if you look at it logically, I wrote the book because I'd had all these different experiences. Other people have written books about different things, but I wanted to put my theory to it, why they're all connected. And that is why the normal, I'll just sort of briefly go into it. The normal ordinary matter that we as normal people deal with on a daily basis, you've got the long radio waves at one end of the lower energy, and then it comes up, the radio waves getting shorter, and then they come up, they go through infrared to the visible spectrum that we see and the acoustic spectrum that we hear, and then they go out through the ultraviolet, X-rays, and then gamma rays are the shorter, higher energy at the other end. And now that's our normal, what our science works on. However, there are now these astrophysicists and cosmologists and people with much better brains than I've got, but they're now saying that dark energy and dark matter make up by far the largest part of the universe. Now, at the moment, as far as we're aware, we don't have the technology to measure this, to look at it, and I think this is the problem. We, because of the ordinary matter that we know of, according to them, it could be as little as 4 or 5% of the available energy in the universe. So the actual part that we can see and hear is less than 1/10 of 1% in the ordinary matter that we know about. And then there's the other 95% that we can't even measure. We don't have the instruments to even measure dark energy and dark matter. And I think if you imagine our ordinary matter as a vinyl LP, where we're on that plane, we're on that vibration, we're on that frequency, well then you've all the dark energy and dark matter above us and some below. So you have a whole stack of records that have their own frequency and their own vibration and their own different dimension parallel with ours. And this is where I think ufology has moved on. And that's what I've tried to explain in my book, why we see and experience what we do. Because if you go back to sort of the 1950s, 60s, even up to 70s, it was flying saucers from outer space, you know, and how they traveled these billions of miles, when the reality could be this interdimensional hypothesis where they're all stacked and we're all together and we're all in the same space. It's just on a completely different frequency or vibration, you know, or dimension. And this is, again, if you're looking, trying to get, as Paul says, it's like the truth with no proof, because the proof isn't on our LP. It's on the LP above, or the one above that, or the one above that. And because we don't have the technology to tune to that, to be able to measure or differentiate that in any way, then it does become the truth with no proof. And if you think about it, looking at it from even spiritualist mediums, well, they don't have to be that spiritualist even, but mediumistic people and that, they always say they lower their vibration, one of their sayings, they lower their vibration to be able to speak to us. Now, going back with that, I was very fortunate on one occasion to have lunch with Bud Hopkins when I used to be with Bufora. And I was being a minion helping the powers that be organise the usual annual conference. And it just happened that I was taking the speakers to the stage and making sure they were where they should be. I was just very fortunate that it happened that Bud and I had lunch at the same time. He was one of the speakers that had been invited. And we sat together and he said, Paul, he says, what convinced me? I mean, Bud was an artist, and yes, he had his own UFO sighting, but he said, what convinced me more than anything? He said, I can go anywhere in the world and I can do hypnotic regression on these people. He said, I got into this just trying to help people, to be a nicer person. But he said, what happened was, he says, you could get a farmer from Bolivia, you could get a guy who owns 15 companies who's a multimillionaire in America, you could get another, you know, a businessman from Spain. He says, but all these people would never, ever, in the real life, they would never meet each other. He says, the only thing they had in common was me. He says, and when they're all telling me the exact same story, he says, without me prompting them, he says, this is what they're telling me. And he says, it just blew my mind. He said, because there must be something to it, because all these people all over the world are saying the same thing, they're having the same experience. So he was convinced that way. And that is why, again, going back to the interdimensional thing, and we could touch on how UFOs move and all the rest of it. And I do believe that it's all by thought. And again, that is part of the problem, where the Earth and where we are our record, our LP, our vibration, our frequency is at a lower energy level. And that is the difference, where ET is at a much higher level, so they can control things with their thoughts. We can't control our thoughts. We get off at a tangent at a moment's notice.
Oh, God, yeah.
And that is a problem. And that is because we're on the level that we're on. And until we learn to be able to do that, we won't have the technology or the capability that they have, where they can move from A to B. This is what makes me laugh. When they get these so-called experts in and say, well, you can't go from, like the Tic Tac, you can't go from sea level to 50,000 feet in 2 seconds. Those G-forces would kill anything living inside it. Or there was no exhaust plume, there was no heat signature, there was no flight surfaces. That's our physics, not their physics. And because they're using it, bless you, and because they're doing it by thought, it's instantaneous. So they're in their own little pocket of universe, and they completely can control that. And that's why we get the bizarre movements and the bizarre speeds that we can't match, because simply they're not using our physics to move about.
Yeah, you get all these hot spots around the world. Are they connected by ley lines or any other sort of things?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that guy was ahead of his time. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But yeah, the old straight line. And I have read that book. And I completely agree with him. But I think that the portal areas, like Bempton, like Skinwalker Ranch, and these others, this is where you get a lot of cryptid reports, a lot of dogmen, a lot of Bigfoot or Sasquatch. You also get a lot of poltergeist activity, and you get UFO activity. Now, I think, if you think about it logically, somebody that could quite easily be 10,000 years in front of us, so they not only understand the whole of the magnetic spectrum, so they can understand our ordinary matter, but they understand the dark energy and dark matter too. And because they understand it and can control it, they can manipulate it. And I think they use these portal areas, these areas all around the world, if you like, as a shortcut for their energy. They can use it just to zip through, often called wormholes. I'm not that sure that they are wormholes in the sense that they can go from point A in space to point B, but I think it is, they're on the right lines.
Yeah. There's Mason in the chat room here. He's got a question. Evening, Bob, and a very hello to Paul. Paul, are they dangerous to humans? What do they want from us?
Right. Now, again, this is just my opinion, but I don't think they're dangerous to the human race at all. Simply because they've been with us since ever we've recorded anything. They've recorded visitors from space. They've recorded, and they've been called different things by different races and different places all over the world. But they've always visited and they've always been with us. So they've been with us from day one. I mean, there's paintings from all over the world going back hundreds and hundreds of years with terrestrial, well, extraterrestrial craft on them, things that could fly that we didn't have until this last century. So they've always been with us. So in one sense, they're not dangerous to humans. They haven't come here to kill us all. I mean, this is the other thing that you get with a lot of media sensationalism, where it says UFO attack so-and-so, or you always get that negative bias. And I don't think that's perfectly true. And I think what happens is, because we don't understand, people put that they're scared of something that's beyond their control. Now, the governments of the world have covered it up for the last 70, 80 years. However, I do believe that there are abductions taking place. But again, you could argue, if you think about it logically, you know, I'm just going off a tangent here, but bear with me.
It's all right.
If you, when you meet, you know, if when we've met before, Bob, but you know immediately when you meet somebody if you're going to get on with them or not.
You're true.
So yeah, So we have our own energy. So our energy will tell us straight away whether you're going to get on with somebody or whether you don't. I mean, some people can be really polite and all the rest of it, but there's always that barrier. You know you don't get on with them. And other people don't have to say anything, and straight away you're good. And this is because your energy that you've got all around you reacts with every other energy around you. Now, the other thing is with your energy is thoughts. Your thought, if you think about it, every thought that you have and the intention behind it also is an energy that you're putting out. So people know if you're putting out a good, positive energy. I mean, when you get on with people and and we even say things like, we were on the same wavelength, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're putting positive energy out, that is the good thing. That is what we should be doing. So to take that to one stage further, the thoughts that you have, every thought that you have is also an energy. So if you're a happy state of mind and you're putting out positive thoughts, you're putting out positive energy, that is what is attracted to you. And vice versa, obviously. But what happens is, because our thoughts are an energy, I'll just use ET as a coverall phrase, but ET is able to understand and manipulate because it is an energy. And that is why you can get ET that go for certain people and they'll have repeat abductions and things like that. And it's because we're all unique. Everybody, it's like a fingerprint or your iris. Everybody's is different. And it's the same with your energy that you're giving out. So because it's a specific thing, ET recognizes that. So in the case of the abductees, if they don't want them to remember, and I'll use it a slight, but anyway, I'll carry on. I'll use it as an example, an analogy. If we're going to a nature reserve and we want to test the local flora and fauna, like we'll put big nets up and we'll catch the birds and we'll see how many there are, we'll see if they're a good weight, we'll see if they're healthy and all the rest of it, and then we let them go. If we want to follow it up any further, we'll ring the birds and things like that, or we'll put trackers on the larger animals, and that's what we do. So is ET doing exactly the same thing to us? They're abducting people, and it's not always. Now, I'm not saying it's always a good thing. Some people are absolutely terrified of it and all the rest of it, but I can go on to that as well in a minute.
Yeah.
So in a bizarre way, is that in reality an act of kindness by ET that they don't let us remember, and we have these screen memories that they can manipulate because all our thoughts and memories are still energy.
Yeah.
So because they understand it and can control it and manipulate, they'll put in screen memories so that it's not as frightening and you can just carry on and makes you able to continue with a normal life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. There's a question here from Get on My Level. It's about Jack Safari, an 85-year-old CIA agent, quoted that these craft are here as a warning of catastrophic, that nuclear weapons are detrimental to humanity, and ask him if he's ever heard of Jack Safari.
Well, I haven't heard of Jack Safari, but I agree with him. Now, correctly controlled, nuclear power could be a good thing. However, nuclear weapons are a really bad thing because they upset everything. Not only the damage that they cause from the epicenter of where they are, but it's the ongoing thing as well. And it's the energy that goes out into space and affects everybody else as well. So yes, I do agree that I think nuclear weapons are a big no. Well, any weapons really, for me, are a big no-no, but there you go. So yeah, I agree with him on that. Yeah. Nuclear power, yes. Nuclear weapons, no.
And you've just had a recent UFO sighting.
I have, yeah. One of the things I do in my book is every few pages, every chapter or whatever, I put different sightings in and my experiences of different things that I've seen and experienced. So altogether, I must be getting up towards 20 sightings now. Most of them are in the book, but a few recent ones. I had one literally, what are we on now, 7 weeks ago. And I was in the garden. We've just got a smallish garden, like 50 foot by 30 foot, but in it, I've got a swing. One of these garden swings that you put the tarpaulin over. Well, I bed my wife like a shed round it. It's like an old country bus stop to keep it weatherproof. But the swing goes down into a bed. So often I'll be pottering in the garden and she'll get on the swing and fall asleep. And so this day I've been in the garden, middle of the afternoon, and as I was going back to actually sit with her on the swing, and I just turned it because I'm always looking at the sky, and as I looked at the sky, there was a black orb. That's all I can describe it as, a black ball. It was going the same direction as the wind, but it was going much faster. And the other thing you get, and I always say this with people, if you see something that could be a UFO, generally speaking, you get this feeling. You know it's odd, you know it's bizarre, you know it's, I won't say alien for want of a better word, but you know it shouldn't be there. Well, this black ball was like, I immediately put, it moved purposefully because it was just zooming along in the sky. Now, fortunately, I've put shelves in this little shed that I've made. And I've got my phone on one of the shelves and I managed to grab it and I got one picture. And when I zoomed in, it's like a cross shape. It's odd, but to the naked eye, it was a ball.
Right.
No sound, no anything. It was just moving and then it had gone out of sight. But it was like, whoa, But this is another point. The people often ask, why haven't we got clear images? Why don't we have good pictures of sightings? Even we'll go back to when they released the Tic Tac, Gimbal and Go Fast, the three that the Pentagon released nearly 5 years ago now. And I was asked to go on one of the documentaries to go down and talk about that. Even those in infrared weren't very clear. You could see a vague shape. At the time, if you think about it, they were seen by the pilots. They were seen by some of the crews on the ships underneath on the carrier fleet. They were actually recorded by the infrared gun cameras on the F-18 Super Hornets, and they were also recorded on the radar of the carrier fleet underneath. So they were like recorded or seen in 3 different mediums, which proves that they're there. However, the very grainy, blurry film that you get, that's all you will ever get. And I think the reasoning behind that, and one of the reasons that I think explains it, is going back to the different frequencies and the different vibrations. And because most of the, I'll call it craft at the time, wasn't within our visible spectrum, it's in its own energy. You only get a portion of what's actually there. And I think that's why a few years ago I went up to Bempton with Paul when he was recording for Chris Evers for the Outer Limits magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And we went up there that night. And I felt quite embarrassed for Paul, really, because he's there putting his 2 pence in and giving his talk. And there were quite a few of us at the back. And there were a few times we saw flashes of light in the sky. So if you knew which one it was, you could go back, and in the background you could hear 4 or 5 people going "woo" all at the same time, where we saw a flash of light come through and then disappear. And I think this is because UFOs come through our frequency, and it's just like when they're using a portal or anything else.
Yeah,
we only see it when it's going through that portion of our visible spectrum. So you don't see it before and you don't see it after, so you just get that flash of light. And that's just one of the things. I think over time, there's more and more evidence, corroborative evidence, that says that this interdimensional hypothesis is definitely on the right track and this is the way we should be going. And I think this is, over time, this is backing that up rather than the nuts and bolts and coming billions of miles through space.
Do you think some of us are chosen to see these objects in the sky? Because some people say, well, I never see anything in the sky. Why do you see things
Yeah.
I said, well, I go out as many times as I can. You might not be able to get out as much as me.
Yeah.
But, you know, are we chosen, some of us, to see what we can see in the sky?
Yeah. I think chosen might be a bit, well, a bit optimistic, really, because I think, in my opinion, what happens is because we're all different frequencies, we're all different, we're all on different paths, we're all on our own little, what can I say, our own little universe in our own course through life. So some people will have a different frequency to others. And yes, there are people such as you and I that do go out and constantly, well, not constantly, but look at the sky a lot. And I think because you're aware of it more, and I think in that way you're closer to it, and in that way you're more attuned to it. Now, to move on from that, there's a lot of people now going on to this CE5 thing where they meditate and they call craft to them.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's a good thing. Yeah, that's fine if that's what you want to do. However, I think there are people, I'm not going to use myself specifically as an example because I don't think I'm spiritual at all, but I think people are of a frequency that are more easily tuned and more aware of it, and because of that. Now, whether it was because of my sighting at the time when I was 11 years old, I got that connection. You see, that was something else. I immediately felt familiar, almost friendly,
Right.
where like there was a connection. Um, so whether that's something that I'd always had and just wasn't aware of, and whether that's something that's now carried on as I've got more mature, I have no idea. But it is a possibility, and I think that is part of the reason how people see themselves, and going back to that positive energy and negative energy, and I think it's part of how you are as an individual, and how you, again, it's a very materialistic world that we live in, and I think it's how you see yourself in the world and see everything else, and why it's more acceptable to people, and it's those sort of people that will experience it more because they're more aware of it.
Yeah, I agree with you there as well. I think we are more aware of it in the sky, because many times when you're out, you're thinking, I'm going to see something tonight. I don't know why. I've got that feeling. And
Yeah,
then you go to Bempton and all of a sudden these orange lights appear. And you think, oh my God, they are around.
yeah,
And they just don't appear once, twice. I think we had 13 orange lights appear in a 20-minute spell at one period. And then you could go 6 months without nothing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen about, what can I say, maybe one every 2 years, but sometimes they seem to clump together, and then I'll go a long space of time, and then I won't see anything. You know.
Oh,
So
yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah,
Another question here. Right. Question, Paul. With more movement of war, should we turn our eyes to the skyline? Also, land, skyline and land. Is there already here ETs? Thanks for coming on tonight.
yeah. Well, I war is not good, um, and that's one thing I think politically in the world. We live in really interesting times at the minute. And I'm not political in the slightest, same as I'm not religious in the slightest. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying this is how I feel that I've moved forward by moving over that and trying to look at the bigger picture. And that's what I've tried to do in my book. Look, instead of just looking at pieces of the pie, look at the bigger picture and look at everything that's experiencing around us. And I think we're really, really in interesting times at the minute where a lot of society is being polarized, if you like, with evil on one side and good on the other. And a lot of the evil that had been covered up in the past is now being made public, and the public are being more aware of it. And it's like, whoa, it's an exciting time to be here and just see what's going to happen next week and the week after. But I think I have to take my hat off to Donald Trump at the minute, where he's stopping these wars where the Bush administration and the Obamas and the Clintons and these others were pushing and pushing, and it was like, again, a money-making thing. And the people that were being hurt and the people that were dying were just irrelevant. And it's like, my God, why are these people like this? So at this moment in time, I'm not political at all, but anything that brings peace is a good thing. So,
yeah, a question from Rebecca King. I had an experience with an orb. It definitely interacted and we experienced the Oz factor. What are your thoughts around these small balls of light and orbs?
yeah. Now, we've also experienced orbs, and you get them a lot with different UFO reports, abduction reports, and things like that. In 1995, I did an investigation for Bufora where 4 adults had been abducted, and there was loads and loads of things to the abduction. But I went to see them on several occasions. It was 2 couples, and I went to see one of the couples many times. And she said one day there was the wife and one of the sons in the room, and this orb just appeared in the room, the ceiling next to them. And she said it just appeared, this like 6-inch ball of white light. And she says, I felt like it was looking at us and, sort of picking up on, like checking up on us, if you like.
Yeah.
But you get a lot of orbs. Now, the problem that we have with ufology and on the spiritual side of things, you get the Most Haunted team, Yvette Fielding. I've been on her podcast, and one of the things that she said was with the sort of implementation of digital technology and digital cameras, they were getting a lot of orbs that were showing spirit. They thought it was a way that digital technology was picking up spirit. So you can get it at that frequency, but also on the other side of things, I do believe, and you've even seen some where they've recorded orbs at Skinwalker Ranch, smaller ones. And I think that ET use these as probes, just for checking on things, for listening to things, for doing whatever. I mean, it's far beyond what we know, but in my opinion, I think orbs are used on a ufological front as well as on a spiritual front, and it's the interpretation of it and the where you are at the time. See, the other thing as well is, these places I've been. One of the things I referred to in my book is we even did an orb walk, but that was on the spiritual side of things, and that was in a place called Casadega in Florida, where you could go around, and I've taken photographs. I actually felt a presence at the side of me, and I felt this presence at the side of me, and my wife was literally stood 10 yards away with the camera in her hand, and I said, Eve, take my picture now, quick. And she took my picture, and there were 7 orbs on the picture around me, as I felt this. All my hair stood on end down this side.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid or anything. I was just aware that there was something there. And then it went, and I said, quick, come here where I am. And she went, because I was stood by this picture. She stood in exactly the same spot, and we reversed roles, and literally within 30 seconds, I had taken a picture of her in the same place, but she didn't feel anything, and there were no orbs on the picture. Now, again, that's on the spiritual side of things, where I think the orbs we get in ufology are more of a manufactured solid thing that ET uses to monitor different places. And it's easier to send a probe than it is to actually manipulate a craft or whatever. Now, that's just me guessing. I don't know, but it's just something to put out there. And please, if anybody knows anything else, let me know.
And Rebecca is also, she was on about that. She said, we had 2 hours of missing time at that same thing, that question she gave you before.
Yeah.
And that does make sense.
Yeah, it goes back to again being able to manipulate your memory so that it can cross, so it misses that part. I mean, we could go back to Betty and Barney Hill, the abduction case that I had with the 4 adults. They had missing time, so it's just one of the things that they use. And again, dare I say it, is it a bizarre act of kindness that they don't let you remember?
Steph was just saying, have you had any sightings of UFOs around Doncaster?
Right. Yes and no. I originally grew up, that first sighting that I had was as the crow flies, probably about 8 miles north of Doncaster. I was born in a tiny village called Hulton Pagnell and moved to South Hemsel, and we were actually on the edge of the village of South Hemsel, looking towards Doncaster when I saw that first sighting. So that wasn't far away. But I think there are these areas. I mean, I'm quite sure that ET can roam wherever they please. But there are also different reports from that area. Now, I'm not just saying just South Hempsall, but Pontefract and all these other places around that South Yorkshire, West Yorkshire border, of which Doncaster's pretty close to.
Hmm. And because she was just saying, I only asked, I'm looking into a UFO landing in fields near Rossington in the early 1980s.
Yeah. Wow. Very good. Well, I'll have to look at that. That's good.
I know Lee's in chat room. She said, orbs have been seen images taken of Bigfoot faces in them with some orbs.
Yeah.
And she was saying about that thing when she was looking in. She said she was at a festival, no drugs involved, Malvern Hills, Hertfordshire.
Yeah. I mean, there's different things where people have seen orbs. I mean, I've seen orbs and people have investigated orbs, even in Leeds city centre. Somebody saw like a 6 foot glowing orange orb. Uh, but a lot of different shapes. I've seen orbs from where, I mean, I'm about 5 miles south of Leeds city centre here, near the M62 motorway.
Right.
But I think it's not just one area. I think they really can be
Any area.
yeah.
But if they want to appear, they will appear.
Yeah.
There's many a time when another example is we hadn't seen Up for ages, and Jason came over from Blackpool. We haven't seen him for ages, and we're talking in car park, walking down to the front, and Jason went, "Is them orange lights in the sky there?" And I thought,
Yeah.
and believe it or not, I think we had 7 sightings, and I
Wow.
said they've appeared for you, Jason. I know they have.
Yeah.
And they just want to, I think sometimes they show people what they're like. And then,
Yeah.
he's
We
got
have.
a
Yeah.
photo of it to take away. He's seen them. We managed to get film, and Paul got a film about them as well. And then they've gone for ages,
Yeah.
for another 4 months.
See, another thing with, I think orbs are a very common one. I've seen a cylindrical, disc shaped. I've even seen like rugby ball shape, like vertical, or it was traveling vertically. So I don't know. See, people say, "Oh, this race is this, and this race is this shape," and it's like, who knows? They're all extraterrestrial, But it is good, and the I think the more you get into it, the more complex it becomes as well.
Oh, it does. Lee's just saying, but why do they appear?
Well, again, it could be. I mean, it could be nothing to do with us. It's just that you notice them. It's not that they particularly appear. They could be going about their own business, doing whatever they do. The As an example, I hadn't seen one for a while, and the we were outside in our garden at the back. One of our neighbours had just had a baby, and she came over. So this like, oh, like do women show off.
Oh, yeah.
New baby. So my wife invites them round. So they're all in our garden having a cup of tea. There were 5 adults, most of them cooing over this baby. So I'm just laid on the grass entertaining the baby's older brother, who was 2 or 3 years old. And then it was at the time where he was looking up at the sky and it was pointing at bird, aeroplane, and things like that. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
just got like a little picnic blanket on the grass, and we're laid on the grass. We'd been playing football and just chasing each other around. And then as I'm looking between the houses, over the heads of where the ladies were, there's a flash in the sky, and this UFO just appeared. And it literally just flashed and it came into existence. And it was just like the Strictly Come Dancing glitter ball
Oh, God.
in the distance. I mean, from where we were, in reality, it was over Leeds city centre, but you couldn't tell how far away it was because you'd nothing to judge the distance by.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it could have been a million miles away and as big as a planet, or it could have just been, you just don't know. But I jumped up and moved to the edge of, we have a conservatory on the back, so that I could sort of see if it was moving or if it was an aeroplane or if it was something else. And it was completely stationary, didn't move. And this is the middle of like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So straight away, my wife sat with the baby, and I'm like, Eve, come here, you need to come and look at this. And she's there with the baby, and you're thinking, oh, and your head's screaming, saying, get your ass over here, girl, quick look at this.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
case it disappears, Anyway, it was there for a few minutes, I bet 5 minutes in all, and we all saw it, and it seemed to very slowly move towards us, was stationary, and then moved away to the west until it faded away into some cloud and we didn't see it anymore. Now, what was really peculiar about it was obvious that it was something odd, something bizarre. There was no sound, no strobe lighting, no anything else. There was nothing on the air traffic apps, nothing like that. And the other thing was, with us, everybody had a mobile phone. I had an iPad. Nobody thought to take a picture
I
or
know.
record anything. I even got my binoculars and looked at it through the binoculars, and I still didn't take a damn picture of it. And afterwards, I thought about it, and I thought, as my life, as I am sat here, I swear they can influence if you're going to take a picture or not. And if they don't want you to take a picture, it doesn't even enter your head. It's like,
I've seen that before, Paul.
Yeah.
I think one time the Sixers up at Bempton, and something appeared, and we all looked at it, and not one person got the phone out or the night vision camera to take a photo of it.
Yeah.
And it just disappeared.
Yeah.
Question from Lee again. Why do UFOs have lights? I think they're trying to tell us something in a way.
Well, that's a possibility. And I think the different ones have lights, maybe to sort of confuse us that we're thinking they're aircraft, or they are just a light. If you think about it from an energy point of view, anything that's a single, because I believe that these craft that are controlled by ET, they are part of it. That's the whole, they make themselves part of the craft. That we thought they're able to completely control it, and it's all part of them. They become one with the machine, if you like. And this same thing happened. The first one I managed to get on film, I've got about 8 that I've managed to get on either video or photograph. And the first one was at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got this instance in my book, and it was my friend Liam and I. Once I was like in the management bit for the ambulance service, and you're working in their control room, and they're 12-hour shifts, so you're sat in front of computers all day.
Oh, yeah.
So as soon as you get a break, I used to make a point of going out for a walk. Well, one of the emergency dispatchers, Liam and I, we used to make it so we could go for a walk together. So 3 o'clock in the morning, we're walking around the industrial, it's Unit 41 industrial estate, where the M1 crosses the M62 nearly. The police have their big depot there, and there's their helicopter. So part of my role at the time, part of my job was, I knew where our helicopter was, I knew where the police helicopter was. and we'd been out for a walk, and we're coming back 3:30 in the morning. I can't remember, something thereabouts. And this aeroplane came out of this cloud towards us. Now, where we are at Unit 41, you're practically over the flight path coming back into Leeds Bradford. So we just expected it. So it was like, I mean, a bit unusual at that time in the morning. It's not normal. But then it was stationary, and I don't know why, but again, this triggered something in my head, and it was like, this ain't normal. And I got my phone out and I started to record it. And it was an oval shape, an ovoid, like a glucosamine capsule, if you like. That
Yeah.
sort of, it appeared like, but it appeared really, really bright. But you could see other like white, red, and green lights flashing within it. And we were expecting it to get closer, and it didn't. It just remained stationary and stayed where it was. And I recorded it for 18 seconds. So I've got an 18-second video of this light. And then I stopped recording because I wanted to look at it. And as I did that and I'm looking at it, it just went sideways and went back into this cloud, and we never saw it again. And it was like, whoa. And Liam, he would ecstatic, because he always said to me, how will I know if I see something? And I went, Liam, you will know. I said, it's a feeling you get this sort of contact, this connection with it. And he thought it was fantastic because he'd seen something that was unexplained, you know.
I know when Steph was talking about that sighting, she said apparently local people were walking towards the field acting in a strange way, as if they were in a trance. One person who witnessed it thought it was a fairground at first, then a train crash. And then when she came round, she said, what have they, where are we now? Then she discovered she was back on the same road, driving in the opposite direction.
Yeah. You see, you can get that where people think it's different things, going back to substituting your memories for a screen memory for something that's more, you know, more familiar, more materialistic to you and pertinent to your life at the time. So they know all that because they can see your memories, they can see how you think and all the rest of it. But also they can cut out any that they don't want you to remember. So if you think about it, everything, including you and I, the room we're in now, the computer we're in front of, and your motor vehicle as well, are all energy. Everything has an energy that reacts with everything else. So for these ET that could be thousands of years in front of us, it's a simple act to tune into that energy and move it and manipulate it to what they want. And that is why you get exactly that sort of thing that happens, exactly the same with the Betty and Barney Hill saga.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just the same, and you hear it recurring time and time and time again, because that is how they manipulate it to make it, I've said it before, a bizarre act of kindness that they don't let you remember what actually happened, so that you can put it under the table. People rationalise it like, was it a train crash? Was it a fairground ride? Was it whatever? It just gives you a more familiar memory so that it's not interrupting your normal life.
Yeah, I know Steph was just saying there, it's messing people's heads about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because then people think you're balmy.
Yeah.
They say, what a load of rubbish you're talking about, UFOs. They don't exist, them do. Why are you talking about them?
Yeah.
You've
And
always got someday.
Yeah, and again, this is part of the problem where successive governments worldwide have pushed this agenda of ridicule to sort of elicit that sort of response from people, exactly. And that's why they've done what they've done, so that they can keep what they know under wraps. I think, moving on from that, Bob, people always ask me about disclosure and things like that. And I don't think we'll ever have full disclosure.
No.
I think we've got some to a certain degree with what they're doing now. I mean, go back 50 years, if you had put a film out like Paul, the ET, I'm saying Paul again, but what it's doing is subconsciously it's putting that into people's mind as an acceptable alien grey. People know what alien greys are, you know.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, that never used to be a thing, but now it's like people know. And I think you've got this subliminal sort of education where, should it ever happen, I don't think you would get the panic that you may have done after the Second World War, for example.
I thought, yeah, exactly. That's what I thought as well. But when you do talk to other people, they say, well, I've seen something like that before. But I didn't want to say up because I'll get ridiculed.
Yeah. I volunteer with a group, which I will be tomorrow, a local environmental group. And one of the guys there, and he'd never said anything before. And I was working with him one of the days, and he says, well, actually, I've seen something. So he told me then, he opened up, and he'd never said anything to anybody before.
And it's strange, isn't it? Question for Paul. This is from Lee. Do you think it's when the paranormal shows its face, it changes the energy? And that's what we feel, see something around us as humans.
Yeah. Now, if you think about it, us as humans, we go back to that analogy of the stack of records. We're on that frequency. We're on that stack of records. Anything else is on a different record, on a different energy. So that is why you get these places, I'll say like Benton, like Skinwalker Ranch, like all these others, where these records almost touch because of that portal energy, because it's a place where they cross. So you do get that feeling, and you get it a lot where people do, what can I say, these Bigfoot hunters and things like that, or people having poltergeist phenomenon, and people that see UFOs, and they'll all say, not all, but a lot will say there was complete silence. And it's because you've entered that bubble of different energy where you're out of our acoustic spectrum. So you can't hear the background hum of traffic or the birds in the trees or the wind or anything, because you're not at our, or acoustic frequency. So you get that complete silence. And again, it's the same where you're entering that bubble of energy where it drains energy from other places. When I went out to Bempton on that occasion, I've got an infrared scope, and I took that with me in the hope of using it. And I charged it ready, got out there, and Paul and I saw something when we were walking down to where the thing is at the end over the cliff. And we'd seen a few things, and we'd seen some stars that Paul initially noticed, and he said, oh, that's odd. And then when I went to use it, the battery was flat. It's a gun.
That happens as well.
And it happens all the time. And it's because that higher energy drains the lower energy. And in some ways, people always get mad and go, oh, damn it, I'm sure I've done that and whatever. And it makes me laugh. I love it when you see the episodes on Skinwalker Ranch and they're just going to do something, and as soon as they press the button, everything goes off.
Yeah, I know.
Brilliant. Yeah. I could have said that was going to happen because they know they can tune into it. They're aware of it.
Yes. We're about nearly come to the end of the show. Tell us about you're going to speak at a couple of conferences soon, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, they know. I spoke to the Outer Limits conference last year. These are different UFO groups that have asked me to talk. So I just do a presentation to introduce different things to get people to understand the bigger picture, because I think as a ufologist you can easily get single-minded and onto one specific thing, and I think we need to think outside the box and be aware of all these other things happen for a reason. And that is why I'm trying to introduce this and get people to think about this different dimensional thing, because that, I believe, is a way that explains why we experience what we do, why we see what we do, and why we remember what we do.
Yeah, so you're speaking where at?
I'm speaking at Pontefract on Sunday afternoon at the Robin Hood public house, and that's open to anybody. A nice few drinks there. That's 1 o'clock on Sunday coming, and then the following Thursday I'm talking to the Birmingham UFO group.
Right. Where can people get in touch with you, and where can they get your book?
At the moment, my book at the moment, I believe, because it was by Flying Dispress with Philip Mantle, is temporarily taking it off because he was ill.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll be coming back on shortly, and they'll be able to get it on Amazon. Unless they can speak French, it's available in French if you're good at that. But they can contact me at paul.ascoff57@gmail.com. That's my email. Or I've got a page on Facebook that I deal with UFOs called It's the Real Story.
It's funny we're saying about them batteries. Lee's in chat room. He says, comment, I'll just put it up there before we go. We went for a week walk at the weekend. It killed 3 camera batteries in 10 minutes. Crazy.
Yeah, easy. No problem at all. But when people understand, I mean, really, they should look upon that as a positive thing because they were in the right area and they were in that zone, in that bubble that it was able. So look at it as a positive thing. Yes, you couldn't use it, but you were in the right place.
And it's strange you said that because we had some people come from, where did they come from? Down south. They brought all the best equipment with them, and every one of the equipment died on the night.
Yeah, don't surprise me.
We just in there this morning in caravan. I said, well, that's what happens up here. It drains your batteries.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
No matter how many you brought up with you, if you even brought any spares, they'll have been drained. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been good. Joanne's just saying, great show. Thanks, Bob and Paul. And Joanne's just said, that's another book I've got to get. When Philip gets them out again, yeah. I know Philip's been poorly, and I hope he gets a lot better because he's a great guy, Philip.
Yeah, he is. I'm hoping he'll be coming to see me on Sunday because it's only about literally a mile from where he lives. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, Pontefract. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Because I went to a conference there, what Philip had organised.
Yeah.
And that were at Town Hall.
It was. That was that. I saw you there, Bob, and I saw you at the Awakening, I think.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, two. Yeah, had 2 of them. Yeah. Well, thank you again. It's been absolutely wonderful. Excuse me. Steph just saying, brilliant show again, Bob, and another excellent guest. Thank you to Paul for your time.
Very welcome. Bob, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure anytime.
It's been great. I've loved it tonight. I've absolutely loved it. You take care.
You too.
And I hope everything goes well for you at these talks. I'm sure it will do because your presentation is always good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
And bye for now.